Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 231 based on novel. So let's start. Hearing the sudden question of Xiao Yan, Xiao Yan was surprised. He just inhaled half of his breath in his chest and coughed out. An old face turned red in an instant. Hai Linger on one side couldn't help revealing a pair of small tiger teeth and kept laughing. Brother Xiao Yang, we all saw it just now. You and the sister inside hug each other. Hai Linger's words made Xiao Yang understand in an instant. No wonder Blood Crown suddenly had this question. It was because of this. You two guys. After a long time, Xiao Yang returned to his mind with a bitter smile, shook his head at the two people in front of him and said, "She is not my wife. That's the lover." Although Hai Linger is usually quiet, she is only in front of her elders and among her peers, especially after she is not bound by the title of Xiao Yang, a joint elder. Sometimes, however, she seems to be too lively. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang shook his head for a while, smiled and immediately recovered his face, saying, "She is my best friend." A simple sentence, in Xiao Yang's heart, is of great weight. In life, there are countless people to read and make friends with. There are countless people to drink and enjoy on weekdays, but few people can really be called friends. This truth is absolute, no matter where you go. Xiao Yang doesn't have many friends. If you calculate carefully, you can count the number of hands, but even so, these people are also worthy of Xiao Yang's life to protect, and the little medical fairy is just listed here. Xiao Yang's sentence fell, and the two people in front of him stopped talking. Rao was as playful as Hai Linger, but he also saw a different taste from Xiao Yang's eyes. Then, in order not to embarrass the atmosphere, Xiao Yan immediately changed the topic, and Xiao Yang also put away his mind and talked with the two people with a smile. At the same time, in the bedroom, in front of the closed door, the little doctor whose face was still pale turned lonely, and moved slowly and rigidly back to the bed with beautiful eyes. A mist reappears. 2 days later, Xiao Yang and Xiao Yixuan set out to leave Beihai. Originally, Xiao Yang hoped that Xiao Yixuan could stay a few more days until his injury healed in his body, but Xiao Yixuan always said that it was okay and wanted to go to the outside world. Xiao Yang couldn't stand it for a moment. At the same time, there was a sense of worry in his heart. Therefore, the two men set off and left the seabed. Because the little doctor was still injured, Xiao Yang asked the Sea Battle Day to call a deep-sea monster with strength at the level of Huyuan territory for them. They sat on the big guy's back and took them all the way to Beihuang. When passing Beihai College on the way, Xiao Yang couldn't help but stop. Accompanied by a small medical fairy, he climbed to the top of the mountain again. However, the first person of Beihai College, Shiremiao, the guy named Chen, seemed to know that Xiao Yang would come and waited for the latter here. When they talked for a few words, their hearts were both happy and hot. That emotion was not hostility, but the most rare sincerity between real opponents. In addition, Xiao Yang was shocked to find that the statue of Tuoshegu Emperor, which originally stood at the top of the mountain and went straight to the sky, mysteriously disappeared into the mountain, leaving only the huge stone platform above the sky. Now, it has become another testing place of Beihai University. For the change of the statue, I'm afraid the Presbyterian seat in the whole college knows something about it, but no one always explains it. Xiao Yang is helpless, so he says goodbye to Shiremiao and embarks on the road again. In the next journey, the giant beast under him led the way, which was much faster than entering the North Sea for the first time a few years ago. However, in half a month, they were not far from Beijun City. Interestingly, on the way, they met the ship of Longzifang again. This time, their leader Liu Jin led the way, but unfortunately, they met a terrible warcraft whose cultivation was at the level of Huyuan territory, which almost destroyed the hull by the beast. When they saw the second giant beast approaching quickly, everyone looked desperate. But then, they were surprised to see that the guy who attacked their ship was forcibly killed by another warcraft, and the powerful force cut off the warcraft. However, in a twinkling, the crisis enveloping the whole Longzifang was easily solved. Then, Liu Jin met Xiao Yang. Half a month later, Xiao Yang and Xiao Yixuan came to Beijun City. When they came here for the second time, Xiao Yang had a feeling that things are right and people are wrong. When he first came here, he was just a 7-star fighting emperor. However, almost 5 years later, he has grown into a strong man in the source environment. However, there are many differences between here and the past. Under the urging of time, the strong constantly strive to become stronger, and the whole world has undergone earth-shaking changes in the hands of these strong. Soon after he came to Beijing City, the first news that came into Xiao Yang's ears surprised him. In a short period of 5 years, Beihuang Hall in Beihuang has expanded its influence everywhere, and has absorbed many old forces of Beihuang. Its overall strength is growing. Qin Shu, the leader of the hall, has entered the later stage of Huyuan territory, and his cultivation is extremely powerful. Even the cultivation of the leader of the South Hall has entered the middle stage of Huyuan territory, which can be called the second pillar of Beihuang Hall. These two men are undoubtedly the strongest fighting force of Beihuang Hall. However, after hearing the second news, Xiao Yang's face became gloomy in an instant. Just half a month ago, Qin Shu, the lord of Beihuang Hall, seized a high-level spirit stone under his own jurisdiction. At the same time, he also caught a girl with natural different pupils. The girl has a pair of colorful eyes, which are extremely flexible. The most magical thing is that the two eyes can see all the treasures under the sky. Whenever there are treasures near the girl, they will be found. It is said that the two eyes are one of the few different pupils in the world. Magic pupil. Now, the lord of Beihuang Hall has imprisoned the girl and is preparing to change her pupils in public 2 days later. He wants to take the magic pupil as his own. When Xiao Yang heard the news, his ferocious killing intention suddenly rose. North Wasteland, North Jishan. A huge crowd was flying around at the top of BG Mountain. On the top of BG Mountain and on the huge platform square, at this moment, many elders of Beihuang Hall stood here and commanded the order in the field. More and more people poured in. The prestige of Beihuang Hall and the attraction of magic pupils made the number of onlookers particularly large. As a result, the number of deacons and elders dispatched by Beihuang Hall was as many as 100, which also showed the details of Beihuang Hall to the people present. Hundreds of strong fighting emperors set out together. Soon, the order on the field was stable. At noon, the closed door of the main hall of Beihuang Hall opened slowly. When the sun came in, a mist dispersed, and the scene in the whole hall appeared in front of everyone present. There was no shadow in such a big hall. Everyone present could not help frowning when they saw this scene. The purpose of their coming to Beihuang Hall this time was to see the legendary magic spirit Tong and Qin Shu, the leader of Beihuang Hall. After all, this Tong is very famous in today's Beihuang. There are countless people who want to see them, but what we have really seen is very few. Because, except for a small number of people who can succumb to Qin Shu and be brought under his command, the vast majority of people who see Qin Shu are ruthlessly killed by Qin Shu. Therefore, there is a saying in the northern wilderness that anyone who sees Qin Shu is a dead body except a running dog. Although there are not a few people with strong wills, there are not many people who live in the world, which is one of the reasons for the rapid development of Beihuang Hall in recent years. Although many old forces in Beihuang are dissatisfied with it, due to the strong strength of the latter, many forces still choose silence. This silence will undoubtedly give Beihuang Hall a chance in the dark. Once it is allowed to grow like this, I believe that within 10 years, the remaining old forces in Beihuang will be swallowed up one after another. But now, no one can stop the development of this momentum. Thus, today's scene appeared. Around the square, those strong people gathered from all sides frowned and looked at the empty hall. They couldn't help wondering whether the so-called magic pupil really existed. Where is Qin Shu, the main hall owner of Beihuang Hall? Hehe, are you looking for me? However, just when everyone was suspicious, there was a burst of laughter between heaven and earth. At the same time, in the middle of the square, in the middle of the air, a figure dressed in brocade appeared very abruptly. At the same time of its emergence, a mighty momentum swept out of its body suddenly, and then shrouded at the top of the whole BG mountain. The terrible pressure shrouded everyone present. The smell of terror made the people present suddenly change their faces. Some people with poor strength were suppressed to the foot of BG mountain under the suppression of this pressure. As for the others, they also looked ugly, clenched their teeth, looked up and stared at the center of the square. The suddenly appeared figure was Qin Shu, the lord of Beihuang Hall. Although his skill can't really hurt people, it has a good deterrent effect on these people. After they go back, it will undoubtedly promote the expansion of his reputation. He is not a good man and does not need to establish authority. He just needs to make everyone in Beihuang fear him. Only in this way can he more stably and quickly annex other forces. Instead of giving them physical blows, he might as well overwhelm them from their hearts. At that time, naturally, someone will take the initiative to take refuge in him. In today's event, he not only wants to capture the girl's magic pupil, but also wants to improve his terrorist reputation. A moment later, when Qin Shu got the result he really wanted and saw the frightened look on the faces of the onlookers, he took back his momentum with a satisfied smile, and then entered the topic. He, you must have heard about the magic spirit pupil, so you came to my BG mountain. I also know that most of you came with the name of the magic spirit pupil. In that case, the Lord of the Hall has met your wish. The moment the voice fell, Qin Shu waved his big hand, and then a human shadow suddenly rushed out of nowhere. Then Qin Shu grabbed his throat. When the audience looked up, they saw a beautiful young girl who was being held by Qin Shu. They were forced to open their eyes and show a pair of colored eyes. Although the girl's breath is weak at the moment, the beautiful eyes have never dispersed the smart light. This is the magic pupil. Wow! For a moment, there was an uproar among the people present, and their eyes showed surprise. They looked at the girl's beautiful eyes, and their hearts couldn't help but rise afire. Then, Qin Shu threw it away, and the girl's delicate body immediately fell uncontrollably. When he saw that it was about to fall, a human shadow suddenly rushed out in the distance and caught the falling girl's body with his own body. Kia. The man who caught Kia's delicate body was her brother, Zhu Qiong. The latter was caught back by Qin Shu with Xiao. The purpose is to force Xiao to give up her eyes willingly, because only in that way, the effect after Qin Shu refined it is perfect. Otherwise, if there is any defect, it may lead to some changes in the future, which is not the result Qin Shu wants to see. Brother. Kia groaned faintly. When she saw her brother's bloody cheek, a layer of fog immediately poured into her eyes. Her brother was hurt because of her. Seeing Kia like this, Zhu Qiong also bit his teeth and hugged the girl in his arms. Unwilling tears almost burst into his eyes. As a brother, he finally held back his tears. He can't hurt his sister for any reason. Ha ha ha, it's really moving family affection. How about thinking about it? It's been half a month, and my patience has been exhausted by you. Little girl, today, you either willingly hand over the magic pupil, or you see me kill your brother with your own eyes, and then forcibly seize it. Qin Shu's face showed a ferocious color, a ferocious smile, and a sinister color appeared in the depths of his eyes. It's hard to imagine what a terrible scene it would be if such a person sat on a magic spirit pupil. Xiao, you can't promise him. Even if you promise him, we will die in the end. As long as you don't promise, he won't dare to treat you easily. Bang! With a dull sound, Zhu Qiong's body suddenly flew out uncontrollably, blood splashed, and the whole person's breath fell to the bottom of the valley. At the same time, Xiao was raised again by Qin Shu with a gloomy face. It's really a toast. I don't want to drink. I say, whether I'm willing or not. With an angry rebuke, Qin Shu turned a terrible face to Kia, and a cold killing intention appeared in his eyes. When Qin Shu held it in his hand, Xiao was extremely frightened and subconsciously struggled to shake his head. Qin Shu immediately snorted angrily and pinched the palm of the girl's neck. At the same time, the other hand waved his sleeve robe fiercely, and a strong energy competition suddenly burst out and hit Zhu Qiong directly. And until this moment, Xiao returned to his mind and nodded hurriedly, hoping that the people in front of him could let go of his brother, but unfortunately, it was too late. In Qin Shu's satisfied smile, the energy training is getting closer and closer to Zhu Qiong's immovable body, but the former simply ignores it. He releases Kia with one hand and wants to seal and change his pupils. But at this time, bang! The energy that had come to Zhu Qiong was suddenly blasted by another force in the field. On the square, the smoke dispersed. A young man in black stood upright in the middle of the square. Behind him was Zhu Qiong, who was almost killed by the energy competition. Look at his face. It's not Xiao Yang. Who can there be? The figure suddenly appeared in the field immediately attracted the attention of all the people present. Especially when they saw the black-robed man's face, they couldn't help showing surprise. The guy who stopped Qin Shu's attack was just such a young man. When Qin Shu and Kia in front of him saw Xiao Yanji, their faces also showed surprise and surprise. Master. The color of ecstasy appeared on Kia's pale and pretty face. The glittering and translucent tears couldn't stop turning in her eyes. She screamed in her mouth, and her delicate body wanted to rush to Xiao Yang. However, just when Kia was about to start, Qin Shu pulled him back. After a cold hiss, his eyes turned to Xiao Yang. In his eyes, a cruel killing intention and sneer immediately appeared. Who am I? It's you. You were lucky to escape from the master of this hall. How dare you come back now? Did you take an apprentice, by the way? Ha ha. Since you teachers and disciples meet today, don't go at all. Stay. Ignoring Qin Shu, Xiao Yang first turned to take a pill for Zhu Qiong, and then looked at Xia. A warm smile appeared on his indifferent face and said slowly, Xia, don't be afraid. The master has come to pick you up. Talk big. His face was gloomy and put down a cold hum. Then, Qin Shu loosened Xia with one hand, and his body suddenly flickered. However, in the twinkling of an eye, he had appeared in front of Xiao Yang, and slapped the latter's head with a backhand. Seeing this, Xiao Yang's eyes flashed a very cold color, and there was no fear on his face. His right hand suddenly clenched his fist, and the green tendons on his arm swelled up. His fierce strength quickly condensed in the whole arm, and the surging energy also appeared on the surface of his fist. Then his arm waved violently, and a fist slammed into Qin Shu's palm. Boy, die. With a grin, Qin Shu's internal qi surged, and the energy contained in his palm was even more powerful. Then he collided with Xiao Yang's fist. Bang! With a dull bang, Xiao Yang's body stood still, and the vast power suddenly broke out from the place where the fists and palms met. The terrible power suddenly changed Qin Shu's face. In one eye, the pupil instantly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and the shock at the bottom of his heart was instantly aroused. At the moment when the fists and palms collided, the power gathered on Qin Shu's palms only lasted for 2 breaths, which was smashed by Xiao Yang's powerful bombardment. The remaining power rushed directly into Qin Shu's body without stopping. The latter's body immediately shot back uncontrollably until 100 feet away, which forcibly stabilized his body. Those crazy destructive forces in his body were also suppressed by his difficulties. However, it can be seen that Qin Shu's face became a little pale after only 1 round. How could it be? Your cultivation. The middle of the source territory. How could it be? A few years ago, you were really a 7-star fighting emperor. How could you improve your cultivation to such a level in just a few years? Qin Shu opened his eyes and showed an unbelievable look in the depths of his eyes. In just a few years, he jumped from the 7-star fighting emperor to become a strong man in the middle of Huiyuan territory, which is almost impossible. However, the super combat power shown by Xiao Yang in front of him and the breath of the other party he felt when they just touched each other, but they are actually telling him that the young man in black who has not seen him for a few years has really become a strong man in the middle of Huiyuanji. Such a strong man, even if placed in the whole northern wilderness, is absolutely the existence of the peak. When the voice of Qin Shu's words came into the ears of the onlookers, everyone's faces changed in unison. They looked at Xiao Yang with shocked eyes. It's hard to imagine that this guy who looks much younger than most of the people present would be a strong man in the middle of Huiyuanjing. This is really incredible. However, Xiao Yang didn't talk nonsense about it. As soon as his body shook, the vast source qi immediately emerged from his body. Then the soles of his feet stamped the void heavily, and his body suddenly shot forward. However, in the blink of an eye, he had come to Qin Shu, waved his fist and hit the latter's head heavily. Damn it! Why didn't that guy tell me that this boy's cultivation speed is so fast? If I knew today, I should have left him anyway. He scolded with hatred in his heart and felt the vigorous wind of hunting. Qin Shu's muscles in the corners of his eyes couldn't help twitching and grinning. Then a fierce killing intention surged in his heart. When his mind moved, The source chi in his body immediately ran along the meridians in his body. Damn boy, even if you are in the middle of Huiyuan territory, in front of the later stage of Huiyuan territory, even in the later stage of Huiyuan territory, you can only bow down and be a minister. With an angry cry, Qin Shu immediately twisted his body and turned to avoid Xiao Yang's fist. At the same time, a heavy whip leg also bombarded Xiao Yang's head. Hiss, hiss. The sound of breaking the air sounded beside Xiao Yang's ears. The sharp wind blew on his face like a blade, which made people feel painful. Xiao Yang's face remained unchanged and his body twisted slightly. His whole body easily avoided Qin Shu's blow with an extremely strange attitude. Then Xiao Yang approached again and hit Qin Shu with his own body as a weapon. The latter's face changed slightly due to his sudden close proximity. When his arms crossed and hurriedly blocked in front of him, Xiao Yang's body also bumped up heavily. The huge impact slammed Qin Shu's body out. Then, when he settled down, his hands in front of his chest also quickly sacrificed cumbersome knots, and the surging energy condensed rapidly in front of him. In the twinkling of an eye, it turned into a huge energy handprint, pushed forward with both hands, and the energy handprint shot at Xiao Yang quickly. Mi Huang means. In this regard, Xiao Yang is not willing to be outdone. The surging source gas condenses rapidly above his head, turns into a huge flame finger, and collides with the huge energy fingerprints coming face to face. Soon, they both disperse in a burst of earth-shaking explosion. Qin Shu frowned when he saw the scene in front of him. The combat power shown by Xiao Yang in front of him was somewhat surprising. As a strong man in the later stage of Huiyuan territory, Xiao Yang's combat power was not inferior to that in the middle stage of Huiyuan territory. Even, there was a trend of pressing his head, which was somewhat unbelievable. If Xiao Yang can improve his cultivation to the middle of the source state in just a few years, this is his terrible cultivation talent, then this combat power is too exaggerated. After thinking in his heart, Qin Shu made it clear that with Xiao Yang's current combat power, he could not easily defeat him. Even if he had a flaw, he would be defeated by Xiao Yang. At that time, everything he did today would fall short of success. Ibis Dharma Protector, if you just wait and see there, today's duck will fly. You don't want this guy to escape from your eyes. After pondering in his heart, Qin Shu suddenly turned his eyes and looked at the location of the hall. At the same time, there was a voice of dissatisfaction in his mouth. At the moment Qin Shu uttered his words, Xiao Yang's face changed slightly, and his eyes looked together with everyone present. Then, there was a strange smile in the depths of the hall. Jie, the Hall Lord is right. This time, we can't miss this opportunity again. After the strange laughter came out, a faint black fog floated out from the depths of the hall and was exposed to the sight of everyone in the field. At the same time, the look on Xiao Yang's face immediately became gloomy. Ghost Hall. Ghost Hall. For the sudden black fog, Xiao Yang just glanced and recognized each other's identity immediately. For these guys who are neither human nor ghost, he has deeply branded their appearance on his heart. If they can't be uprooted one day, they will become a thorn in Xiao Yang's heart. Even if they don't breathe, it will make Xiao Yang's heart ache. Buzz. When the black fog appeared, a powerful pressure that made the soul tremble suddenly spread over the top of BG Mountain. When everyone felt this terrible momentum, their faces changed again, and then there was a hissing sound of sucking cold air. This strange guy in the dark fog appeared later, but he was also a terrorist in the later stage of the source territory. This means that in the North Wasteland Hall, in addition to the Hall Lord Qin Shu and the South Hall Lord, there is another strong man at the level of source environment, and his cultivation is not weaker than the Hall Lord Qin Shu. In the later period of the two Huiyuan territories and the middle period of the one Huiyuan territory, such a North Wasteland Hall is enough to sweep most of the old forces of the whole North Wasteland. As long as they are willing, I'm afraid the North Wasteland should have fallen into Qin Shu's hands. At that time, the whole North Wasteland will become Qin Shu's heaven. However, why he didn't turn his nest in the end is somewhat intriguing. The black fog swayed and leisurely came to Qin Shu. A pair of cloudy eyes appeared in the black fog, swept Qin Shu up and down, and sent out a burst of Jie's strange smile. Then, the strange eyes looked at Xiao Yang again. Jie. Xiao Yang, I let you escape with good luck last time. This time, I see who else can save you. Xiao Yang didn't pay much attention to this. Instead, he stretched out his right hand and grasped it out of thin air. The black Xian heavy ruler immediately fell into his hand. When the heavy ruler front sank, it made a slight sound of breaking the air. The wind pressure blew up the dust on the ground below, which gave people a heavy momentum. Without too much words, Xiao Yang takes practical actions to express his position. For these guys who are neither human nor ghost, he doesn't need to say anything more. As far as Xiao Yang is concerned, the people of the Soul family must be killed. Seeing this, there was a strange laugh again in the black fog. Immediately, the strange eyes looked at each other with Qin Shu. Then they moved, and they appeared on the left and right sides of Xiao Yang, with a potential of attack. Do it! Qin Shu shouted angrily, and the surging source gas immediately spewed out from inside to outside. The source gas condensed into a huge palm and bombarded Xiao Yang. At the same time, in the black fog, there were also black strange source gas, which quickly intertwined in the air and turned into a huge ghost hand. Making a sharp sound, he stabbed at Xiao Yang. In the face of the two men's attack, Xiao Yang's face was indifferent. He held the giant ruler in his hand and his mind moved. The light blue flame immediately lingered up. A huge source gas energy was also continuously injected into the giant ruler. For a short time, a fierce atmosphere of supremacy was diffused from it. 7 broken sky ruler. The giant ruler waved and turned back and forth, and the 2 magnificent flame ruler horns suddenly shot out. In the twinkling of an eye, they collided with the 2 fighting skills. At the moment of the explosion, Xiao Yang's body suddenly flashed, and the energy after wave immediately swept away. Then, the 2 figures rushed out of the storm, and Xiao Yang's body had already disappeared in place. Hiss! With the breaking wind, Qin Shu and the Ibis Dharma Protector came after Xiao Yang again, but in the blink of an eye, they appeared on both sides of Xiao Yang's body. A whip leg and a terrible-looking ghost claw attacked the key of Xiao Yang's body. Power elephant, gold elephant, wing elephant. All 3 decisions are open. Xiao Yang's overall strength, defense, and speed have been improved for a long time. The golden mask seems to cover Xiao Yang's body in essence. The terrible physical strength is condensed everywhere in the body. The amazing speed enables Xiao Yang to easily deal with the attacks of the 2 powerful people in the later stage of the source territory at the same time. The 2 men's attack was in an extremely dangerous posture, close to the black robe worn by Xiao Yang, and the whip leg even close to Xiao Yang's face. The ghost claw almost stabbed Xiao Yang's chest. Although Xiao Yang would escape, he still pierced a big hole in his black robe. In the whole process, Xiao Yang was as calm as usual. At the moment of avoiding the attack of the 2 people, Xiao Yang immediately turned the huge ruler in his hand, turned around and hit Qin Shu hard on his chest. The terrible strength shook his internal organs for a while, and his throat gave a dull hum. The whole body immediately withdrew uncontrollably. Then, Xiao Yang's backhand slapped at the strange black fog, but the latter was much more sensitive. When Xiao Yang blew away, there was a clack of chain collision in the black fog. Then, 4 long dark chains suddenly rushed out of it and blocked Xiao Yang's palm. Then Xiao Yang flew back, and Qin Shu and the Ibis Dharma Protector stared at Xiao Yang with gloomy faces, especially Qin Shu. After seeing Xiao Yang's arrogance, he regretted what happened a few years ago. If he hadn't hesitated to let Xiao Yang go at that time, he would have become a strong man in Yuan Wang's territory. This northern wasteland has long been his world. Why is it today? Now even the Ibis Dharma Protector in the black fog was very surprised. He didn't expect that Xiao Yang's cultivation would be so strong that he could stand in an invincible position alone. Considering his terrible growth rate, if he couldn't win it today, Xiao Yang would surely become the great enemy of their ghost hall in the future. Damn it, it's no way to fight like this. This boy's speed is much faster than us, and his physical strength is terrible. I really don't know how this boy cultivates. This is not the time to be ambitious. I'm afraid it won't work to take him by violence alone. So we can only choose another way. Qin Shu's face flashed a sinister smile. His eyes turned and fell on Kia again. On Biji Mountain and on the huge square, Xiao Yang and Qin Zuobi's Dharma Protector confront each other. After 100 rounds of confrontation, the two sides fought against Xiao Yang, but they didn't get the upper hand at all. Even Xiao Yang nearly hurt them several times. At this time, the appearance of the two people also seemed quite embarrassed. Qin Shu's brocade robe had broken several big holes, and the red fist print was particularly clear. The silk blood dyed the brocade robe red, and even there was a bruise on his face. Although the ibis Dharma protector on one side is not like the former, the strange black fog around the body has become much thinner under Xiao Yang's strange fire. In the face of Xiao Yang's strange fire, even the ibis Dharma protector will feel a great headache. In addition, Xiao Yang's amazing body method speed can ensure that he can remain invincible in 100 rounds. Knowing that they couldn't easily suppress Xiao Yang, Qin Shu made up his mind to Kia. He understood that most of the reasons why Xiao Yang appeared on his Biji mountain this time were because of Kia's relationship. Xiao Yang seemed to be very concerned about his apprentice, otherwise he wouldn't touch his whole Beihuang temple on his own. When the two sides were still in the confrontation stage, Qin Shu suddenly twisted his body and appeared next to Seer in an instant. In the girl's frightened eyes, he grabbed Seer's throat. Suddenly, the girl's whole cheek quickly turned red, and his mouth kept making a vague groan. Kia. Seeing that Kia was bound to Qin Shu again, Zhu Qiong, who couldn't stand up in the distance, suddenly changed his face. He strongly supported his body, staggered up from the ground, endured the injury in his body, and wanted to go to Qin Shu. At the same time, Xiao Yang just regained his consciousness. Unexpectedly, Qin Shu no longer took the initiative to attack, but focused on Caia. Do you want to force him to obey? Hum. With this in mind, Xiao Yang suddenly gave a deep cold hum in his nose. His toes lightly touched the void. His body immediately turned into a streamer and rushed towards Qin Shu at a lightning speed. Almost at the same time, there was a strange smile from the mouth of the ibis Dharma protector who had been staring at Xiao Yang. Then the black fog surged into a black light beam, quickly blocked in front of Xiao Yang, stood between Xiao Yang and Qin Shu, and stopped it. Jie, Xiao Yang, your opponent is me. With a strange smile, the ibis protected the Dharma body and moved, so he dodged and rushed to Xiao Yang in front of him. The black fog surged, and dark chains rushed out of the black fog, like a black poisonous snake, stabbing at the key points of Xiao Yang's body at an extremely tricky angle. Go away. As soon as Xiao Yang's face sank, he waved the huge ruler in his hand, and the magnificent ruler orn shot out in an instant. He severely hit the black chain that was shot from the front and flew out. At the same time, his body quickly bypassed the ibis Dharma protector, and wanted to move on. Unfortunately, even though Xiao Yang's speed is not weak, the ibis Dharma protector behind him is like a maggot of tarsal bone. No matter how fast Xiao Yang's speed is, he is still delayed by this guy, which also makes Xiao Yang's face more gloomy. Jie. I said, your opponent is me. Qin Shu smiled grimly and seemed to have seen Xiao Yang's embarrassed appearance after being bound. Sorry, I've never been threatened, so I choose the third choice. Oh. I'm curious. What's your third choice? Kill you. At the moment when the voice fell, Xiao Yang's body suddenly disappeared in place. However, in the blink of an eye, he already appeared in front of Qin Shu. In the latter's shocked eyes, he slapped Qin Shu's chest. I'll come. But at this time, the ibis Dharma protector shouted loudly and suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yang. From the black fog, a bony dry arm was exposed. The blackened palm was facing Xiao Yang, while Qin Shu took the opportunity to retreat. Bang! The palm of Xiao Yang's hand suddenly shook with one blow, and the terrible power suddenly poured out. In the black fog, the face of the ibis Dharma protector also changed suddenly, and his body flew backwards slightly in embarrassment. When he was fixed, he looked at the palm of his right hand that had just collided with Xiao Yang. At the moment, it was scorched black, and the terrible flame burned a layer of flesh and blood on his palm. You can even vaguely see some dark white bones under it, but because of the flame temperature, the right hand of the ibis Dharma protector has lost all consciousness. Damn fire! He scolded with hatred in his heart. The ibis Dharma protector didn't expect that Xiao Yang didn't pay any attention to their threats and dared to fight against them. In this way, it was even more difficult for them to control Xiao Yang. Damn it, what are you doing? However, when the Ibis Dharma protector turned his head and looked at Qin Shuji, he saw that the latter was pinching the printed knot with both hands, flashing light and rushing into Qi's body in front of him. This guy actually planned to change his pupils now. It's useless to keep this smelly girl. It's better to solve it now. However, facing the angry drink of the Ibis Dharma protector, Qin Shu gave a cold hum, and his movements did not stop at all. Hiss. However, just as Qin Shu was still beating the knot in his hand quickly, Zhu Qiong's body suddenly rushed from somewhere. Although there was no superposition of fighting spirit, he also hit Qin Shu with his body, interrupting the knot being played between his two hands. What? The appearance of this scene immediately made Qin Shu angry. Looking back, he saw Zhu Qiong, grinning with a ferocious color. Unexpectedly, it was a backhand slap on Zhu Qiong's chest. Pooh! With a big mouthful of blood gushing out like a column, the pupil in Zhu Qiong's eyes suddenly contracted. Then, it was rapidly enlarged, and the whole person's vitality dissipated in an instant. Brother! At the same time, Sir, who saw his brother's death with his own eyes, also showed the color of despair on his pretty face full of tears. A pair of beautiful eyes quickly turned red, and blood poured into his eyes. The shrill cry was like coming from Joyo, which hurt people's eardrums. Even those strong fighters outside the battle circle changed their faces. Shut up! Qin Shu's face changed and his backhand slapped on Cai's pretty face. Cai's eyes suddenly became lifeless. The colorful color in the depths of his beautiful eyes also quietly became scarlet. Then Qin Shu raised his hand to pinch the seal again, which seemed to prevent Xiao Yang. This time, he pinched the seal much faster than before. On the other side, Xiao Yang saw Zhu Qiong die in Qin Shu's hands, and his face suddenly showed a touch of self-blame and infinite killing intention. Facing the obstruction of the Ibis Dharma protector, Xiao Yang's attack became more fierce and powerful. For a moment, the Ibis Dharma protector was suppressed by Xiao Yang. At the same time, the seal knot between Qin Shu's hands was also completed. Then, with a dark color on his face, he raised his eyes and looked at each other with Qia in front of him. This time, the eyes look at each other directly to the soul, and Qin Shu's purpose is to completely deprive the magic spirit pupil from each other's body and soul. As time goes by, 10 minutes will pass. The battle has reached a white-hot stage, but in the whole process, Xiao Yang suppressed the Ibis Dharma protector to death. Under Xiao Yang's fierce attack, the Ibis Dharma protector even had no chance to breathe. He took the initiative to contain it as before, and now it's gone. He doesn't even have a chance to get out, let alone to contain Xiao Yang. If Xiao Yang is willing at the moment, you can easily bypass him, but what Xiao Yang thinks now is just about to kill quickly. However, it was at this time that Qin Shu had a sudden change. Everything was normal in the peeling process, but suddenly something strange happened. Qi's magic spirit pupil shook the source bead in the cyclone in Qin Shu's body. Then, before the magic spirit pupil was embedded in Qin Shu's eyes, the huge source qi in the source bead turned upside down uncontrollably, passing through the internal organs and even the body along the meridians in Qin Shu's body, whether from the inside or from the outside, they poured into Qi's body. What? At this moment, Qin Shu finally found something wrong, but until this time, he was frightened to find that he could no longer control his body. In other words, now he can only watch the source beads in his body and continuously transmit a force to Qi's body, but he himself becomes weaker and weaker. No! No! What the hell is going on? Come on, stop. Stop. No. I don't want it. I don't want the magic pupil. No. Come on, someone interrupt. Qin Shu shouted wildly with great fear in his heart, but there was no change in his face, which led to the fact that the elders and deacons of the Beihuang Hall could not find out. As for others, after seeing the tragedy of Zhu Qiong, regardless of whether they had that idea in their heart or not, they still chose silence. The battle on the field continues, but almost everyone's eyes only pay attention to Xiao Yang and the Ibis Dharma protector. As for Qin Shu, the waves are calm, and even the people in the North Wasteland Hall don't bother to pay attention. Bang! With a heavy fist, the body of the Ibis Dharma protector was blasted out. At this time, most of the strong black fog surrounding his body was dispersed, revealing his next slightly illusory body. This guy was another soul body. Looking at the familiar strange mask, Xiao Yang's killing intention became more intense, and his attack became more fierce, especially with the special suppression effect of strange fire on the black fog, which gave Xiao Yang the upper hand. Damn it! Qin Shu, what the hell are you doing? A furious scold did not wait for the Ibis Dharma protector to move, but Xiao Yang's body pressed up again. At the same time, his eyes also noticed Sir over there. When he was worried about him, a violent color suddenly appeared on his face. Once again, Xiao Yang pushed back the Ibis Dharma protector. Xiao Yang's hands were heavily pinched. Two groups of flames with different colors suddenly rose in the palms of Xiao Yang's hands. It is the Sea Heart Flame and Bone Spirit Cold Fire. Then, the familiar scene of the past reappeared. When the two hands were matched, the surging flames immediately staggered together. At the same time, seeing the Ibis Dharma protector in this scene, a face under the mask also couldn't help but twitch violently. Damn it! This madman will use that trick again. Looking at Qin Shu in horror, the Ibis Dharma protector knew that he could not bring Xiao Yang back today, and the most important thing was to see Xiao Yang use this method, which was one of the cards created by Xiao Yang, Buddha Anger Lotus. Greedy things, live and die. After scolding Qin Shu, the ibis quickly flashed away to the distant sky, trying to escape from the devil in front of him. After all, everyone knows the horror of Buddha's anger lotus in their ghost hall. In the face of Xiao Yang with such terrible combat power, he may have no choice but to escape. Unfortunately, Xiao Yang would not let him leave easily. Xiao Yang, I really underestimated your strength, but it's impossible for you to kill me. I've written down this account. At the same time, the body shape of the Ibis Dharma protector appeared in the sky outside the crowd. Its speed was amazing. However, just as the Ibis Dharma protector was about to escape from here, a black painted tent suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. Then, Xiao Yang, holding a green and white fire lotus in one hand, stepped out of it with a fierce face. Then, in the latter's frightened eyes, he pressed the fire lotus in his hand firmly on the Ibis Dharma protector's chest. This video will end here.